Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07. WMAL. Good morning. Happy Friday to one and all. At 7:05, let me give you the rundown. We've got, at 7:05, Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. She's going to give us the latest on the Secret Service. She has scooped a lot of stories, so we'll get to her at 7:05. 8:05, Sarah Carter, who's been down on their southern border. She's going to be talking about Kamala Harris's immigration legacy, as well as Trump's visit to the border yesterday. And then 8:05, it's Friday. We usually have Brett Baer on, anchor of Special Report on Fox News. He's going to give us a recap of this week at the DNC and potential big news coming out of RFK Jr. You're listening to Larry O'Connor and me, Patrice Onwuka, O'Connor and Company. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Patrice. I'm still sort of, shaking off the sort of sleep from the eyes because it was a late night with Kamala Harris. And what a way to spend a late night with Kamala Harris, of all people.
I know. I mean, listen, it's been a long week, a lot of late nights. And you would have hoped that she would have come out of the gate with a huge bang, a memorable, earth-shattering, earth-shaking speech, and frankly, I think it was a dud. But, we have reaction from President Trump. Before we get to that, Larry, what was your overall take on Kamala Harris's speech? Was it a dud? Was it earth-shattering?
Listen, I thought she made the people in that room happy, and certainly the people who were anchoring cable news shows happy, because, they're inclined to like her anyway. She's performing. She is really good at delivering a speech. There's a reason why she doesn't do interviews. There's a reason why, all of the cringy clips you see of Kamala Harris, all of the gaffes she makes, all of the awkward, really horrible moments she's had is when she's either unscripted and just sort of talking off the cuff, or she's answering questions in an interview, like with Lester Holt when she said, I haven't been to Europe and stuff like that. So that's why you don't see that from her anymore. You see her in very stage-crafted and managed, scripted moments. And given that context, she did fine. I just don't know if you can sustain that between now and Election Day. Can this entire thing be protected and bubble-wrapped and scripted and stage-managed and produced? Maybe.
Well, listen. That's what we saw when Joe Biden ran in 2020. He literally ran from a basement. He had very few interviews, and everything was staged. And over the past few years, we've kind of seen the same thing. So I kind of think they're going to try that playbook again. Now, President Trump is everything the opposite. He is not staged. He is not. He has a script, and he will go to it, but then he will go off script. And I think the off script moments are sometimes very interesting and authentic. And he is not afraid to take on any reporter, anytime, anywhere. And I think that's what people find so appealing. Even the news media they find appealing because they get more information out of here. So last night, let's get to a cut of President Trump reacting to Kamala Harris's speech. Michael, can you give us cut 15?
Joining us now by phone, the 45th President of the United States, former President Donald Trump. Mr. President, thank you for joining us. You were truth socialing along this speech. What is your first reaction to it real time tonight?
Well, the biggest reaction is why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? All of these things that she talked about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do everything. But she didn't do any of it. She could have done it 3.5 years ago. She could do it tonight by leaving the auditorium and going to Washington, D.C. and closing the border. She doesn't need a bill. I didn't have a bill. I closed the border and created the safest border we've ever had in the history of our country. She could have done all of these things, and she could still do them. She's got 4.5, 5 months left. She can go there right now. She can do all of the things, many of the things that she's talking about and complaining about. It was a lot of complaining. She didn't talk about China. She didn't talk about fracking. She didn't talk about crime. She didn't talk about 70% of our people are living in poverty. She didn't talk about housing, really. The trade deficit. She didn't talk about child trafficking that she's allowed to happen because she was the border czar and she presided over the weakest border in the history of our country. It's an invasion. I was there today, as you know, Brett. It's an invasion of our country taking place at our border, our southern border. It's a total invasion. And now it's starting at our northern border also, through Canada. And she didn't talk about any of that because she talks, but she doesn't do. It's no action. But, look, other than that, it was a nice-looking room.
Other than that, it was a nice-looking room. Well, I mean, that is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely, I think, a great summary of what happened last night.
Well, and he hit every single policy point that matters most to people right now, whereas she talked about everything that she cares about, but a lot of people are not thinking that that's what's going to drive them at the polls.
Also, I think it's a great move for him to actually call in live immediately after the speech and deliver his reaction for Fox News. And by the way, Brett's going to join us at 8:35. Some people were criticizing that they were up against it at the top of the hour and they cut the conversation off because they didn't want to go over and I don't know if you saw this, but then so they had to cut it. All right, thank you, Mr. President. We got to get to let's throw to Greg Gutfeld, who's live because Gutfeld did his show live.
Yes.
And then Trump called Gutfeld on his cell phone.
It was hilarious.
And
Gutfeld's
that
like,
was
I want the president to call me. And then he did.
It was very, very funny. And so you got to love the and it was like everyone's mad at Brett Baer. It's like Trump wasn't mad. He just called Greg Gutfeld and moved on. I think it's hilarious.
Actually, we have the cut. Cut 16, Michael.
Oh, good.
Hey, Donald, you have my number. Call me. I hope he's not mad at me.
I don't know. I think we got to pay you a lot more money.
Hey, Mr. President, I'm live now. Say hello to my audience. So don't say anything that'll get you in trouble. All right.
I don't mind. At this point, what difference does it make? We're doing well. We're leading in the polls.
All right, Mr. President.
8 points down.
Yeah.
And they said he has to get out, and they basically staged a coup.
Yeah.
And let's all see how it happens. But I think we're doing very well.
All right.
We're going to do very well.
All right, Mr. P, I gotta go.
Have a good time.
I see ya.
Mr. P. Can you call the president Mr. P instead of Mr. President? I kind of like that, actually.
That's very. I don't think we can call him that, but I think if you have
Maybe
him on
Gutfeld
your
can get
your
away
phone.
with that. No, that's a good vibe. He also called in, by the way, to Newsmax. Our buddy Mercedes Schlepp was anchoring last night on Newsmax, so you'll hear that in a second. But listen, I think President Trump nailed it there in terms of analyzing the speech, but also there's something. There's an underlying message there that Kamala Harris won't sit for a formal interview for 2 minutes with a news anchor that is already inclined to like her and help her out. Donald Trump is giving interviews and calling in live and just, he's an accessible politician right now running for office while they're, like I say, treating Kamala Harris in bubble wrap and just trying to move her through this process so they can maintain. One big takeaway for me last night is, and Trump just alluded to it when he mentioned the coup. If they had had an actual primary and Kamala Harris was one of the candidates running, there is no chance in hell that she would be standing on that stage last night.
Ooh,
I think
you're
only
right.
way she's the nominee is the way they
100%
stole
think
it.
you're right.
Yeah. All right, at 6:15, in a moment you'll hear Trump calling into Mercedes Schlepp and Greg Kelly on Newsmax. Get his assessment. But first, WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Steve Hirschhorn and the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Give her what she wants. A diamond from Mervis. The best diamonds are at Mervis Diamond Importers.
News is brought to you by New Look Home Design.
The last several days, my sister from another mother and our frequent co-host here on O'Connor & Company, Mercedes Schlapp, shared the panel with Greg Kelly for Newsmax's coverage. So, of course, her former boss, President Trump, called in there as well. Cut 17 here, Michael. Let's take a listen.
Well, she lies, and she's not specific, and it was a very general, it was like just a general speech. But I ask one question. Why didn't she do it before? In fact, she's got 5 months left. Why doesn't she leave the beautiful studio or wherever she is right now, hop on a plane, go down to Washington, D.C., and close the border? Because she can close the border very easily. You know that. I didn't have a bill. I didn't ask for a bill. I closed the border. I told the Border Patrol, who are incredible people, and the law enforcement generally, including ICE, close up the border. get MS-13 out of our country. We took them out by the thousands. Get them out. We got criminals out. We have the best border we've ever had. You saw the famous border chart, my all-time favorite chart, for even different reasons, okay? You don't understand that. Yeah. But why didn't they close it? Why don't they go down to Washington and do these things? Why didn't she mention fracking? She didn't want to mention it. She will never allow fracking. She's just using that and saying it. You know, she's changed. She's the greatest flip-flopper. Every single thing that she believed in all her life, she's now changed because she wants to get elected. But if she got elected, she would never do these things.
Yeah, 100% accurate assessment there again. Yeah. And I think that's the most devastating rejoinder to everything. And whether it's something that a reporter or journalist should say to Kamala Harris if she ever grants an interview, Her Majesty Kamala Harris grants an interview to the rabble in the media, or for that matter, this is something that you can use for your liberal friends or your Kamala Harris supporting friends on your Facebook page or whatever. When they say, yeah, Kamala Harris, you can just say, yeah, why do you want to elect her? What do you want her to do? And then no doubt she'll say, well, because she'll do this, and she'll do this. And the simple response is, well, why isn't she doing it now?
Thank you.
Why hasn't she done it for the last 3.5 years?
Even more, and President Trump added this, she's got 5 more months. Yeah. Why doesn't she do it today or going tomorrow?
Do it now.
She's got time to do it.
And by the way, and again, you got to think ahead when you're talking to these people. Their response might be, well, she's just the vice president. She's not the president. And your response can be, oh, so she doesn't even have influence with Joe Biden? She can't get Joe Biden to do these things, but you think she's going to reach across the aisle and get other people to do it from another party? If she can't influence Joe Biden, who, by the way, is already checked out, she's not going to be able to get anything done. You got to think ahead and recognize that really is the most devastating indictment of all these grand promises she's making.
That's exactly right. Listen, I would love to have seen President Trump also try to call Jake Tapper live on air last night, or one of the CNN hosts. Heaven forbid an MSNBC host. I would be surprised if they took his call live, because I think they would be fearful of him doing exactly what he did on Newsmax and Fox, which is to poke massive holes in the glaring in her speech and the things that she's claiming she would do. Why hasn't she done it? And also all of the things that she's ignored that actually are the top issues that are motivating most voters right now. I would almost guarantee you that Trump offered to call in to Tapper and even to MSNBC. Did. They made an editorial decision, and I guarantee you that it was based on the fact that, well, he'll just come on here and he'll spew lies and it'll be disinformation and we won't be able to fact check him in real time, and we're just not going to do that because we have journalistic integrity and we're above that. Yes. Because they're chickens. All right, so Kamala Harris, at the beginning of her said, this is one thing, Donald Trump posted this on his Truth Social. It's a video, and it caught my eye this morning as I was sort of recapping some of the clips. I didn't notice it during the speech itself, but she was introduced, she took the podium, and I want you to listen to this. This is 42 seconds long, but I swear there's no editing here. This is Kamala Harris last night before she began the speech. Listen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Okay, we got to get to some business. Okay, thank you all. Okay. Thank you. Please, thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone.
Stop! What is happening? That was 31 thank yous in the course of 42 seconds. And I guess she's not used to it, but, when a crowd is...
that's what it is.
It's
discomfort with the moment. And that's a bad... if she can't be comfortable as the president of the United States to command the moment and command the stage... What is she expecting to do on day one when she becomes president of the United States? You have to be able to corral your crowd. If you can't even corral your own crowd and be present in the moment and own the stage, you are not ready.
Donald Trump posted that on Truth Social, and then he just said, too many thank yous, too rapidly said. What's going on with her? Good question. It's 6:23.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37, and it's full speed ahead here on this busy Friday morning. Thanks for joining us. Coming up at 7:05, Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics, latest Secret Service news. And we finally have a breaking story there, by the way. Secret Service agents have been placed on leave.
Oh, wow.
Is accountability actually coming here? We'll ask Susan
Finally?
Crabtree. 8:05, Sarah Carter on the border, and at 8:35, Brett Baer, Fox News Channel. I'm Larry O'Connor. You just heard her. She's Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Donald Trump is in Arizona, and there's a couple of things of note about that. First of all, yesterday he had an incredibly powerful and, frankly, emotional campaign event at the border. It was really more of a press event. It was with Border Patrol agents who were there to support him, and it was there with the victims of violent crime who are victims directly as a result of the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden administration's policies on the border. It was incredibly important, and we're going to let you hear quite a bit of it, not just from the president, but also from these mothers and family members. Also, he's in Arizona because later today he will be participating in a rally. It's co-sponsored. Carrie Lake is going to be there. Our buddy Riley Gaines is going to be part of the rally. It's obviously to shore up some votes in Arizona, which is firmly becoming a pretty solid state right now for Donald Trump. But he's also announced that there's going to be a special guest joining him. And we alluded to this yesterday because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has also announced that he will be making an announcement earlier in the day in Arizona. So you've got so today around 1 p.m.
1 + 1 = 2.
1 p.m., 2 p.m., RFK Jr. is going to make an announcement in Phoenix. Later in the afternoon, early evening, Donald Trump will be doing a rally in Phoenix, and Trump's campaign has announced that he'll have a special guest on stage with him at that rally. So we'll get to more details on that coming up in a bit. But while the president was at the border, he had plenty to say, as you can imagine. We'll start with cut 22, Mr. Shelton. Let's go.
President, she'll be a president that'll make him look good, just like Biden made Jimmy Carter look good. To get illegals into America as fast as possible, Harris has flown hundreds of thousands by airplane. Then they say, oh, well, we didn't want him to go. But then we found out a few months ago that they're flying him in over the border by airplanes to all over our country. Well, that means they do want them to come in, and flying in some very dangerous people. It's close to 1 million people, we think. Close to 1 million people were flown in over the border, and she's trying to say, well, we're in favor of borders. She just started this a short while ago. She's even launched a smartphone program that gives fast pass entry to thousands of illegal immigrants, all coming very quickly. You use the smart pass and you get immediate access into our country. Can you believe this? And then they're trying to say we believe in borders. They're flying right over our heads, right into the middle states, all over. Every border, and you've heard this, every border, you look at the different states, and put another way, every state is the border state now when you think about it, because they just come right past here and they get taken to other states that never even thought of a problem like this.
100% accurate, powerful, and of course Trump is very strong on this issue. Also, for anyone who's out there saying, well, Kamala didn't do it, it was Joe Biden, Have you heard Kamala Harris say at all in the last 4.5 weeks? Have you heard her ever say that there is any policy difference that she has had with Joe Biden? And the answer is no, absolutely not. So if she wants to distance herself and say, well, that wasn't me, I was vice president, I was president. Okay, do you disagree with what Joe Biden did then? And if you do disagree with those policies, did you do anything to stop it? Did you let your voice be heard? And if you did tell him that you disagreed, why didn't he listen to you? You're his most trusted advisor. Either way, she can't weasel out of this, Patrice. Real fast, one more clip from President Trump, and then we'll get to the family members. Cut 23.
With your vote, we will seal the border, stop the invasion, and launch the largest deportation effort in American history. We will impose tough new sentences on illegal alien criminals. These include 10-year mandatory minimum sentence for anyone guilty of human smuggling, a guaranteed life sentence for anyone guilty of child trafficking, and a death penalty for anyone guilty of child or woman sex trafficking. We'll also impose the death penalty on major drug dealers and traffickers.
Major mandatory penalties at the federal level.
And significant penalties at that, the death penalty.
Yeah, it doesn't get more significant than that.
Exactly.
Again, I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to be able to credibly run to the right of Donald Trump on the border. Although they're still trying to maintain that the border's more secure than it was when Trump was president. It's just an outright lie. All they have is lies.
Well, that's what they're going to run on. And as the borders are, I wish you would have said, yes, and as the borders are, this is what I will do. She can't even come up with anything like that. So,
all right. We know here intimately the story of Rachel Morin. She is the mother of 5 who was murdered by an illegal alien in Maryland. Rachel Morin's mother, Patty Morin, was there with Donald Trump.
Wow.
And in a moment, you're going to hear her story and what she had to say at this press conference. And I'll just warn you, you might want to get your tissues ready. That's coming up.
WMAL, making sense of party politics, because somebody's got to hold their feet to the fire. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Gone are the days when opponents of rampant illegal immigration would just point to the unemployment numbers and the economy and the drain on public resources like our school systems and our healthcare systems as the reasons why we shouldn't let anyone from around the world at any given time into this country while breaking our laws and breaking our borders. No, that's a quaint notion when it's just about jobs and the economy. No. Now we're facing violent crime.
Yes.
And you'll hear the Democrats' response to this is, well, illegal immigrants commit crime at a lower rate. First of all, that's not true. The fact of the matter is the victims of illegal immigrants are often illegal immigrants themselves, and so those crimes go unreported, so they don't show up in the stats, number one. But number two, it doesn't matter what the rate is. This is not about the rate of crime committed by illegal immigrants. It's about the number of crimes, because every single one of them, whether it's one crime, one rape and murder committed by an illegal immigrant, or 1,000 rapes and murders, none of them should be happening. We should have it's not like, well, those crimes would have happened anyway if it weren't.
No, they wouldn't.
They would not have happened. And so every single crime committed by an illegal immigrant is in addition to the basic crime that we already have in this country, but it shouldn't have happened because they shouldn't have been here. So the more you focus on the devastation that the Biden-Harris policy has inflicted on innocent Americans, the stronger and more powerful your message will be, which brings us to Rachel Morin's mom, Patty Morin, yesterday. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Hi. I was just thanking President Trump for the invitation to come and to share Rachel's story. Rachel was 37 years old. She had 5 children. She worked. She owned a small business. She worked very hard to support her family. And the trail that Rachel ran daily was a trail that we as a family would walk over the last 25 years that we've lived in Maryland. It's a very safe, small trail, very public, very open. Moms with baby carriages go down this trail. It's very safe. I was in Kentucky. We had a grandbaby that had passed away. When I got a phone call from my son, and he said, "Mom, there's somebody here that would like to speak to you." And when I said hello, the person on the other end said, "Hello, Mrs. Morin. This is Detective so-and-so. I'm the lead detective on this case. There's no easy way to tell you this, but we found your daughter's body. And if they find the body, you know that she's dead. But they wouldn't say, 'We found Rachel. She's alive.'" And so they found my daughter's body. And when they found it, it just recently has come out that she was brutally beaten, raped, and then stuffed into a drain pipe. We're 18,000 miles, 1,800 miles from the border. And because of this open border, we've had not just my daughter, but we've actually had 2 in the same county that we're from, where illegal immigrants have come in and have caused rape and murder of our citizens. And the reason why I came here today and I accepted the invitation is because I really want our words to be heard, and I really want you to take to heart what we're saying. We're not here for a political stand, although we are. We're here because we're losing our moms, our daughters, our children to criminals. And that shouldn't happen. We should be taking care of our country, our people. And the only way I believe that's going to happen is if President Trump is reelected as president. And we close up this border and we put policies back into place that were there before.
That's Patty Moore, and there's a little bit more from her, but you understand, she's our neighbor. This
Yes,
is a mom
she
from
is.
Maryland. This is a mom
Bel
from
Air,
Maryland.
yeah.
Talking about her daughter going and running on one of the beautiful trails that we've got, in Maryland, where you can go and be fit and go running, which is what she did, and then she faced that brutal end, and it's the legacy of Joe Biden, it's the legacy of Kamala Harris that they're now lying about and trying to gaslight you about, and ultimately, this election is about inflation. This election is about national security. This election is about foreign policy. This election is about Patty Morin. This election is about what happened to Rachel Morin and what's going to happen to Rachel Morin's children in the future.
And how the federal government failed these mothers, literally failed them. The person who did this was arrested at the southern border in February 2023. He was allowed into this country. He assaulted a 9-year-old girl. He had already murdered a woman in El Salvador before he came here. Why was he let in? How is he allowed to stay and move around? That's what the Biden-Harris administration needs to answer to Patty Morin and all of the other victims' families.
Yeah, and I need your friends on Facebook who have that little hate now has no home here sign in their front lawn. I want them to communicate to Rachel's mom here, Patty, who's dealing with this. Just communicate to them. Well, the good news is we don't have mean tweets anymore. The good news is we don't have to, have a man ranting about Jim Acosta anymore in the White House. See, the grown-ups are in charge. Yeah, the grown-ups got Rachel Morin raped and murdered. That's what the grown-ups have done. There's more on this. We've got more audio from this event at the border, and also Sarah Carter, who's been all over the border issue. She's going to be joining us at 8:05. Right now it's 6:53.